Jesus speaks to us today about how he is a shepherd to the sheep, sheep that have had no shepherd. He speaks to the disciples and says that you are laborers, that the harvest is ready, but the laborers are few. Then he goes out and sends his disciples to go and heal and touch and share the love of God with the children of Israel. I'd like to share with you an essay written by Patty Witten called Bringing in the Hay. It's late July, the grass is above average tall, and if it ever stops raining, the farmers will get a lot of hay in. My neighbors to the north have a small farm. They are a young family who've grown up in the life of farming here in Dryden. Dana and Carol were high school sweethearts, and now they are in their early 30s with 3 small children. Dana wants to have steers on his 80 acres. In fact, he wants to buy some of the adjoining 600, but that's still on the wish list. For now, Dana hays the open fields every summer, like he did with his father growing up. This summer he has a couple of horses in the fenced pasture closest to his house, the one where he kept a steer a few years ago. They're here because another neighbor's horses ate all the grass at her place. Plus, she broke her arm. So Dana stepped in. He's been hauling water for them in a 100-gallon utility tank tied to a small trailer behind his four-wheeler, pumping it by hand into a trough. 9 days ago, 3.5 inches of rain fell in just 45 minutes. The deluge caused major flash flooding in parts of the country. I had water in my basement, not from creek overflow, but because the sump pumps could not keep up, and the ground was already saturated. Last year we had a 100-year drought. 7 months of far below average rainfall from late spring through the fall. This year, corn and soybean rotted in the fields. The horses drink from a new pond that has filled a low spot in the pasture. 3 days ago, Dana mowed the field closest to my house with his 20-year-old tractor. That's not a bad age for a John Deere, having replaced a truly ancient one the year before. But since then, Dana has been struggling to get the hay in before another round of thunderstorms and flood warnings. He started baling yesterday, but every few minutes I heard the tractor motor drop to an idle because of some problem. He didn't get very far, and despite the near-perfect weather, the tractor went silent well before sunset. This morning, help arrived. With Dana driving and the helper walking behind the baler hitched behind the tractor, they got it all done. Dana's bales were a bit wonky, a little crazy shaped. Some were curved into wide letter U's. Others were twisted like square slinky toys. I listened to them work from the top of a ladder where I was cleaning the gutters until I was chased down by hornets. I was stung 3 times and ran around the house where I examined the welts on my arms and legs and watched the heavy blue thunderheads piled into the western sky. The wind switched and turned cold as inflow rushed to meet them. At about 4 that afternoon, Dana and his 2 older kids worked fast to bring in the bales before the evening thunderstorms. They buzzed around the field loading 6, 8 bales in the four-wheeler's trailer, minus the water tank. ran them to the hay wagon, loaded the bales on the hay wagon, then rushed back to the field for more bales. Wash, rinse, repeat. According to the weather radar, the storms heading our way were slow-moving but intense, running in a line from southwest to northeast, from Corning to Ithaca. At 7 p.m., the dark sky was pierced by lightning and frequent thunder. The four-wheeler buzzed and voices shouted until the rain began. My stomach was a twist of anxiety about these approaching storms for a different reason. On my weather app, I looked at huge clots of orange and red rain cores, trying to gauge it when the deluge would hit. I had to do some talking to myself and slow breathing to calm down. I thought about the recent flood, knowing all too well that if we lost power to the sump pump would not run. To prepare, I moved the cat's litter box and the dehumidifier to what passes for high ground down there. There wasn't anything else to move that hadn't already been ruined in the previous flood. I ran the worst case scenario and felt my gut twist. So I thought instead about Dana and his family, about the bales of hay in danger of being soaked and ruined, become worthless due to mold, making all that work for nothing. What must it be like to desire a farming life these days? Even if it's just a small place to raise your kids and keep goats and chickens, maybe a few steers. Day jobs must fill the void. Everything must be deferred in favor of the farm and equipment, including needed renovations to the house, vacations away, new vehicles, 3 kids under 12, the youngest less than a year old. The storm caught up to us, but fortunately just a glancing blow. No prolonged drenching rain, no flood, no loss of power. Other people had flooded basements, ruined hay, no power, and stress. But not me. Not this time. Now it is near dusk, and a cool breeze is pushing the storm south and east, away to other towns, other farms. I hope they get the hay in and under cover. I hope there won't be more storms tonight. I hope we can adjust to the new normal of weather extremes and enjoy this beautiful part of the world while it still resembles what we grew up with. Meanwhile, I'm watching the next line of storms heading this way, and a line stretching from Detroit to Toronto. Sunset is lighting up the back of that storm line in the east with a diffuse pink glow that slides with orange and golden yellow as I watch. A rainbow stretches up to the base of the cloud and receding rain so that all you see are 2 curved pillars touching the earth and a dome of color suspended between, lighting arcs beneath it. Sometimes the drama is behind you. Sometimes it is ahead. You know, when I think about the drama being behind you and sometimes it is ahead, it's so true for our Christian narrative. That Jesus was aware of the things that would take place. He knew that his time on earth was limited. He knew that the harvest was ready, but the laborers were few. He sent out the disciples into the countryside, gathering up the children of Israel. Just like Dana the farmer gathered up the hay bales, loaded them onto the back of his four-wheeler, and drove them and put them on his big, huge truck and hauled them into the barn. What a beautiful story about how God is just like the farmer who sees us out in the countryside, in the middle of the hayfield. We may be those hay bales that have been misshapen. Some of us may look like corkscrews and others like U's. Others of us are stacked up and wonky like slinkies. But each hay bale, each person is so important in the kingdom of God. That God sent laborers out to share the good news of Jesus Christ with you and with me is an earth-shattering revelation of the love of Jesus and how that love can incite men and women to share the good news of Jesus Christ. For many of us, we heard the good news of Jesus through our parents, through our moms or our dads. We may have heard it through a vacation Bible school when we were just children, when the neighbor kid invited us to go, or to a youth overnight trip that we were invited to by a local youth pastor or best friend. Whatever the case may be, someone took time to share the good news of Jesus Christ with us. Talked about the times where they felt like those hay bales that were misshapen, that they didn't have much value. But God saw something important in them. Saw that they were a life that was worth saving. A life that would feed the sheep. It's so important for us as children of God to know that we have value. And the people that God sends us to have value. That the love that God has put in each of our heart should be so overflowing that we can't keep it inside any longer. That it spurs us to action. To go out and gather those hay bales in the meadow. God calls us. God prepares us for the drama in our life. The drama that is both behind us and in front of us. The drama that may be occurring in your life right now as we speak. God is with you. God is with you, holding your hand and helping you reach out for that next hay bale. That next person who needs to hear the love of Jesus. The love of Jesus is so profound. It's a love that's truly changing. It took fishermen and tax collectors and physicians and people that had nothing in common to come together and go out into the highways and the byways and heal bodies, minds, souls. That the rains of this life and thunderstorms had been beating down people since the time of Adam and Eve and Abraham and Sarah. and Noah. The rains continue to batter us. We have felt those thunderstorms recently.